Hello and good morning, Furious Driving Patreons and channel members. It's good to see you all out there in the internet land of the world, or something. That didn't really go anywhere, did it? Well, I hope you all had a great Christmas. Hope you're all recovering from the sprouts this morning, not too overloaded with leftovers, and looking forward to a lunch made of turkey soup and whatever else you've got stored up. Christmas pudding for the next 3 weeks, which is never a bad thing. I'm shivering out here in the garage. I've got the oil heater on. Pushing up against the car, which is actually ice cold. It's another chilly day. I was going to go and do this indoors on the desk inside, but my son's watching TV quite loud and just stuff going on, so doing it here in the garage again is a better setting for this anyway. So what a year it has been. First of all, thank you very much indeed for not only being a channel member or a Patreon and supporting this ridiculous channel, which means a lot to me that people actually are interested enough that they do that. That's just incredible. But just for watching in the first place, and then subscribing even, is a fantastic thing. The channel has grown incredibly. I mean, it's more than doubled in size in the last year, so that's been just astonishing growth. So I'm amazed at that. One of the stranger things is people actually recognising me when I haven't been out much this year. It's 2020, but occasionally I've been out and people have known who I was from the channel, which is very strange indeed. But it's nice to see people and say hello to people in the real world when we do venture out there from time to time. So that was pretty cool. I've driven some pretty amazing cars. I mean, a lot of the questions we've got today are about that, and you know, it took me a while to work out what I'd actually driven. I had to go back and search back through my own through the channel myself. We drove 67 goes for a drives of new and old cars this year, so that's plenty of cars. The plan for next year is to make it even more though, because my plan is to try and ramp up Modern Mondays. So maybe not every Monday, but certainly most Mondays we have a new car review, and then we also got the retro car review on a Friday. And if we don't get a Modern Monday at the beginning of the week, we throw in an older car of some kind, maybe an intermediately aged car, like an early noughties car perhaps. This year has been tricky because well, just getting to cars has been difficult. First of all, the lockdowns for the first half of the year made it difficult, then the second lockdown has made travelling awkward and people didn't want to come out so much. It just made things very, very tricky indeed, really, that meeting up with people suddenly became something you didn't necessarily want to do so much. So not necessarily for my safety, but for other people's safety. If I've driven one car in the morning and met one person, and then I've driven off in someone else's car in the afternoon, I don't want to be passing germs around. So it's just made things very, very tricky. And also with the Modern Mondays, where I'm trying to get the newest cars possible, so I'm talking to car manufacturers, and they've been on the whole really helpful and receptive. So that's brilliant. The trouble is though, they're obviously concerned for their own staff safety, so for a time they suspended sending out cars. So that kind of put things behind. So over the year, normally at this point in the year, I would want to have about, I don't know, a dozen or so reviews kind of in the bag waiting to go. As it is, I've only got a couple, so I'm gonna have to try and find some cars that can go out in the rain in the next few weeks and make sure I've got those stacked up to go out very soon. Also, well, if we're going to be stuck here, we've got plenty to do on the cars, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. But yeah, it has been an astonishing roller coaster of a year, from something which I was starting to do just as a very much a couple of years ago as just a sideline, not even for money, just for fun, then kind of just doing this could actually sort of turn into a bit of a sideline job, a part-time job, to almost being, this is taking over from my real job. It's just crazy the amount of time it takes, really. You'd be amazed how much time it takes to put these videos together. Right, so what have we got planned? Well, last month, first of all, let's do last month's review of stuff that happened. First of all, the Alpha 145. Wow, that was a long time coming. That car was a year off the road. First of all, failed the MOT, or was going to fail its MOT back in November 2019 on rust. I knew it was going to be a few £100s. I didn't want to be chucking any money into it at kind of at Christmas time, so I thought I'll sort that out in the new year. New year happened, lockdown happened, so I spent a lot of lockdown one welding that one myself, because that was all the sills that had gone, and they'd gone quite spectacularly. And then we rolled it off for an MOT, having done that after the lockdown, and my friend looked at it and said, well, I'm not going to put that for an MOT, it's got cracks in the struts. So he then, as you probably have seen, cut into that, found more horrific welding, and that has now been done. That was expensive. That cost a lot, considering what that car's worth. That shouldn't be worth doing. I mean, when we were just talking about it over the phone after he'd kind of cut into it, and he was offering me different solutions, different ways of approaching the problem, he said to me, so here's your choices, what do you want to do? And I asked him, what would you do if it was your car? He said, I wouldn't do it, I would scrap it. So yeah, we've reached the point where that car is owes me more than it's worth, basically, because now I've got a thermostat sitting on the cupboard by the front door, which arrived yesterday. No, yesterday, it's Christmas Day. Arrived on Christmas Eve, which again, thermostats, that's about £5, isn't it? £4.99 for a thermostat, unless it's for an Alpha 145, in which case it costs about 70, and it still needs a timing belt. Well, it doesn't need a timing belt. It's a precautionary timing belt because I don't know how old the old one is. I think it's within date, but I'd rather spend money on a timing belt than a new engine. So yeah, that was exciting. What else have we done? Volvo's on the road still. Those tail lights, those have transformed the back of that Volvo. That was an expensive week because that happened the same week. 250 quid for a set of tail lights. That stings. Again, tail lights shouldn't be that expensive for an old car, but there's such a massive lack of them in the world that I can probably bung the old cracked ones on eBay and get a decent chunk of that money back. So maybe I'll do that. I will have to be honest though, they are cracked. You can see they're cracked. So yeah, that happened. That's good. What other cars have we touched? I haven't touched the Tomcat. I mean, the Tomcat I've just fired up and just driven up and down the road a couple of times just to keep it moving. But I haven't actually driven it anywhere for about a month. That was a waste of tax again. It reminds me, must go and put some cars on Sawn this month. Because yeah, if it's going to be Storm Bella and snow and things, I'm not going to be driving many cars the next couple of weeks. A friend has offered to put the Volvo up on his drive for a few days, or for a month basically, for January, so thank you very much indeed. I'll have to roll it over to you in a few days time and then sawn that car. But then if I do that though, I can't work on it. This is the tricky thing. If I sawn a car, I can't bring it back here to work on, so what do you do? Oh yeah, slight progress on this, a little bit of progress on the V8, not a lot. So yeah, things have happened. Plans for the coming month, I'm going to, hopefully, well it depends on the weather really, that's very much weather dependent. And one thing that I am really seriously looking into, I've been talking to Dave, my neighbour who's a builder, about building a lean-to carport off the side of the garage to cover with the Mercedes and the convertible are currently sitting, because that's just a bit damp in there and it's windy and you can't work in there in the bad weather because the wind whistles through and the rain falls. So yeah, we've kind of worked out a blueprint, a plan of how to build a lean-to, and he was meant to have talked to his suppliers before Christmas about getting some wood and perspex, and not perspex, new polycarbonate. Someone did offer me some polycarbonate, but I would like some kind of new shiny stuff to make it look attractive, because it's on show to the world. It's not like it's hidden away. So yeah, that's one big plan, make those cars drier and safer. Hopefully we'll get the convertible MOT'd in January, because I think, touch wood, we're kind of at a point where there's nothing else to fix until we can get an MOT on it and then shuffle it off to the various professionals who need to do things to it to make it pretty. What else are we going to do? Well, again, weather dependent. More engine work on the V8. Need to go and find myself a Dremel extendy thing to grind that hose off, that I can get the new hose on, carry on with that. Another project I'm going to film tomorrow, which I hope you're going to be excited about. I'll leave it on in the dark though. It's very, very modern once upon a time, and it's very current, very relevant for the moment. So that hopefully will be a bit exciting. A new series starting maybe in this week, because I can do that one indoors as well. I think, well, there is more coming. I forget what cars I've got and what one is doing. The Mini I need to go and get a remote key and decode the radio still. Some things never change. Right, I'm going to eat my mince pie, then we'll do the questions. Now before we get cracking, there's two things I do need to say to you. First of all, if you head onto the Redbubble store today, Boxing Day, there is a 20% off sale on everything. Use code Boxing Day for 20% off. That's site-wide, not just my stuff, everyone's stuff on Redbubble. 20% off Boxing Day right now. Secondly, I'm going to be bringing the these hats with the Furious Driving script. Those are going to be available on furiousdriving.co.uk. In a few weeks' time, I've just ordered a whole batch of them, and also a second set in grey with a little round circle, the Furious roundel on them, just a little kind of 2 centimetre or so roundel, so it's quite subtle. But that's going to be out again on furiousdriving.co.uk. I've sorted out a PayPal button, so it's like a proper, almost real business. So I'm bringing some of the merch indoors. It's a big job doing merchandise stuff. I know Ian Hubnut, he does it all himself, and I take my hat off to him. Well, I would if it wasn't so cold in here. But it's a massive job and a huge investment, which is why I've kind of left it with Redbubble, because some things like t-shirts, you need to buy every size, from like extra small to double extra large and everything in between. And because a lot of mine are in different colorways as well, that's just too much of an investment really. So I'm leaving t-shirts and things like that on Redbubble, but hats, I'm going to start doing other things as well. I'm looking at doing sort of bringing in-house so I can do it personally, and yeah, use PayPal Business to make it like a payment system that works. So thanks everyone who took part in the Diamond Bright competition. We did have 5 winners, and they all had their sets sent out to them, which hopefully arrived in time for Christmas. I hope you guys have a lot of fun cleaning your cars in the new year with those. I'll put the mince pie out of reach so I don't munch on it during the thing and make horrible noises. Questions from the Patreons, I can't say that word, and channel members. Now I'm going to start the questions a little bit out of order because someone did ask me the same thing last time, and didn't get around to doing it, but we'll do it now. I thought I might do it as a separate video, but I'll do it as part of this one. Isn't it about time we had a toolbox tour and toolbox sort out? From Nigel Rudd. Well, let's do the garage walk around, because there's a couple of toolboxes here to show you. So I'll set the camera off the tripod thing and I will give you a walk around. This is the Furious shed. So walking into the garage from here's the roller shutter door at the front and the door here. We've got, well, obviously the door. We've got the manual override for the electric door, which seems to be playing up at the moment. We've got a broom because you can't be too careful, and we've got the big handle for the big jack hanging up ready to grab by the front door. And because this Rover isn't moving much at the moment, the big jack is currently living under its front bumper. We do also have a double plug, which the big jack handle fell off and knocked off the wall the other day, and I've not had a chance to refix back to the wall again and make it safe. Over in the far corner opposite as you walk in, I've started doing a foreign number plate collection. That is a Illinois plate from when I did Route 66. That's the first state we started in Chicago, so I thought I might try and get a plate from every state on the route, but we only round up in one place that had any local plates for sale, and I didn't get the rest of them sorted out, so I need to go and get the rest of the Route 66 number plates. And I picked up the Sinclair dyno later on the route. Used the oil sign I picked up in a second-hand shop for insanely cheap money, at £25 a few years ago. And I worked a long time in newspapers, so that was kind of quite relevant to my life. And then the Rover sign over there, which I picked up on eBay for, again, pretty cheap money. The guy listed it as 6 inches tall rather than 6 feet tall. So I got a bit of a bargain on that one. But anyway, yeah, now we have the wet and dry vacuum pushed by the door, because that gets used quite a lot. This box needs to go in the bin as soon as I've checked that this exciting new welder turns up. I wasn't planning on buying a new welder, but in the Black Friday sales of the day, this turned up incredibly cheap on Amazon, so I couldn't say no. And a lot of this racking came with the garage, but this just needs to be taken out and replaced and made more usable. This is all the stuff that gets grabbed frequently. Cans of paint, WD-40, that kind of stuff. Hanging up by the light switch, got a couple of nice things. These AA car and commercial badges, which I actually found in my granddad's house when we were doing a clear out a few years ago. And of course, safety, PPE stuff, fire extinguisher and ear defenders. These are actually shooting ear defenders, but not doing any shooting this year, so handy in the garage. All the oils, coolants, stuff that gets used frequently. And this office straw is surprisingly useful for bits and things like taps and dies. That kind of stuff is very handy to have in these little slide out drawers. I need to go and reorganise this, so when the Rover is gone, this is all going to get moved out. Moving further back, I did get a cheap little stand for a little while, so we've got boxes of wires and stuff underneath there, axle stands, jump starters. There's magazines actually in there, more wires and cables, many instruction books. I could do with more instruction books, so I've not got one for the Volvo yet, bizarrely. This is very handy. This is the Rover 200 400 R8 factory workshop manual, so that's very useful. Sadly, it doesn't cover much about the convertible, which is different in lots of weird ways. This Mercedes book is utterly invaluable. Of course, we've also got the Rover factory manual as well for the P6, which is also extremely useful. Stack of old radios, some of which work. It is a bit of a minefield walking through here. So the air compressor is in the way. The old welder is in the way. What I need to do is, once the Rover's out of the way and I can sort of move things around properly, go onto Big Dug or something and get some big shelves so I can stack the stuff like the air compressor and the welder underneath there and have more storage down the side. That's a plan for the future. Other bits and pieces, the old Mercedes wheel centers, Lloyd lights, these mirrors, these bullet mirrors I bought for the Black Rover, but I kind of changed my mind about them. I might fit them still, maybe. Next in the obstacle course, we have new suspension for the convertible, but I do need to see if I can convert the top plate on the front shocks. Got the roof hood fabric for the convertible waiting to be fitted to the car. Fresh oil, window frame for the P6. This is a tinted window for the white Rover P6. I've done 3 of the doors, but the 4th one, I've got a new door shell which I haven't had painted yet, so when that goes painted, that will be fitted. Ramps, awkwardly placed. Racking with many things in it. Engine crane, right at the back, so really not useful. Then we get into the actual workbench itself. This was built, in fact this entire end of the garage was built virtually for free actually. This workbench was left over from a kitchen install that my builder neighbour was doing. So I bought some timber to put it onto. At the same time as I bought this. This was my old toolbox which I got birthday money for some years ago and bought that. And then this is all from Halfords. I had some vouchers from a cashback credit card I've been using for years and never taken any of the cashback from. And I had enough to buy this on the cashback vouchers for. Bear in mind I was doing about £200 a week on petrol at the time. So did have a fair bit of cashback to be claiming. This is where all the tools live in here. So random things like wire strippers, soldering irons, hot glue guns live in the top there. Welding accessories, which are no longer relevant because that welder is going to go. Tank washers, screw extractors, Allen keys of many sizes. Drill bits and more drill bits. Random stuff, box spanners, giant things, feeler gauges, randomly placed together. Random chisels and pens. Files. Steel rule which Andy brought down when he was trying to help me with the Mercedes and left behind in the engine bay. More overflow of files and chisels. But these can go in there because they fit. Again, this is just a randomly large drawer that fits plumbing and woodworking things together, plus the wire brush which I thought I lost. This is the failure of my organisation. And we move into the big chest, which has obviously got a triang radio flyer type thing on top of it. Flathead screwdrivers, Phillips screwdrivers, cutters and pliers. This one's a few randomly objects, mostly the pop riveter and other engine tools, of course. But this is largely bits of W123 toolkit which I've been assembling because it hasn't got a toolkit with it. Then we get into our torque wrenches. 1/2-inch sockets, and there are many more 1/2-inch sockets over here in this portable carry caddy. This was given to me recently. This is really handy for doing like spark plugs and things. These crank handles, many sizes. Then we get down to the 1/4-inch and 3/8-inch socket drives. So I have got a couple of these sticks, but these are all just too many. I had various sets and they've all kind of lost bits, broken bits. So that's imperial, that's metric, and that's a jumble of the 2 different sizes. So basically I do need to be getting a few more of these sticks and put them all together to make it into a usable thing, because I've got so many of so many doubles and all sorts that I need to tidy these up and organise them a bit more. Into the middle box I have imperial spanners, ratcheting then standard. Then metric spanners likewise, ratcheting and standard, and a couple of crescent ones which come in handy for specific jobs. Then big spanners, this is where the larger stuff lives. Biggest one we've got in here, 32mm. Now I've got 36 somewhere, I don't know where that's gone. Cutters, clamps, mole grips. Hammers and crowbars of various different types. So we've got a wooden mallet there, smacking stuff, metal type there. More hammers, what do you call it, ball joint separators, oil filter removers. Air tools, although most of that's been replaced by lithium powered stuff these days. Well, the saw is still quite handy though. More big stuff, large welding clamps, suspension coil spring clamps, piston ring clamps, basic clamps really. And finally, in the bottom, power tools, drills and angle grinder. So that is the toolbox. And to keep me sane when I'm out here working on my own, apart from chargers for the power tools, radio, CD player, DVD player and a TV. We can get the Wi-Fi so I can get free view out here as well. There's most empty boxes, to be honest. I could do going into the attic of the garage, the polisher and its polisher in the bag, the many different kinds of foam applicator living in the box, and other tools over here as well. My favourite being the heat induction tool. Fantastic. And of course, being a typical garage, lots of drawers with screws and hooks and nails and things in. And the big vise. I do need to move the alpha sign because that's way too close to the vise. When things are being smacked with hammers, you don't want hard to find precious Alfa Romeo logos. It does normally light up, but the lead that connects the LED strip to the power, it's just little crimpy spring-loaded connectors, and it swung slightly on its hook and they pulled out, so I need to go and redo that. And in fact, once I've got the rover moves out of here, I'm going to hardwire this under bench light here into the main light circuit so that we can have light those click on automatically rather than using sockets. Oh, finally under the bench, got a spare V8 engine, more heaters, more axle stands, more bits of engine. This all needs a more clear out as well. Basically, I'm just kind of waiting for the V8 Rover to be mobile so I can roll it out of here and do a fair bit of reconfiguring in here. My wife actually wants to be able to keep a bike in here as well, so that's more significant reconfiguring to do. Now this one I've managed to cut the name of the person who sent it off in from, but I think this one just missed the cut off for last month. It's a good question and quite a hard one to answer actually. Out of the cars I've reviewed, which has the most comfortable driving position? And that's a good question, and a really hard one to answer because sometimes comfort is relevant to the car, but overall it was, I had a good hard think about that one. It's quite a boring answer, right? Either the E30 BMW, which are a really good driving position, or the Carina E. And the Carina E may well be not an exciting car, but that is a car designed to travel a long way. And that was just right. Everything was ergonomically brilliant. If I'd driven a Mark 1 Mondeo this year, that would have pipped it to the post, but I never got around to that review, which is a shame because I really wanted to drive a Mark 1 Mondeo. So yeah, I'm going to say the Carina is probably the best driving position in the world. A similar follow-up question from Joseph Lloyd. Hello Joseph, how are you? Hello Mr. Richardson, what was your favourite older car and favourite modern car I drove in 2020? Now, bear in mind, as I said a minute ago, 67 cars driven this year. That took a bit of thinking. Although new car, not a problem. That was very easy to decide. That was the Alfa Giulia Quadrifoglio. That was kind of my only modern dream car, really. I haven't got many modern dream cars, but that one is at the top of the list. So driving that for a few days was spectacularly fun. Yeah, I missed that car. In fact, when that one turned up in the drive, the neighbours were a bit like, he's doing well for himself, isn't he? And then when it went away again and the grey Mercedes came back, he's lost his job, clearly. But in the older car, my favourite older car, that was a really hard thing to drive because there have been so many variations. Is it the best drive or the car I enjoyed driving most because it was just a random thing? If we're talking sort of 90s stuff, the Ford Taurus, I absolutely loved driving the Ford Taurus because I love a big American Ford. But then going a bit older school, the Vandenpla, the 3 litre, that was lovely. That was just so wafty and nice, but it's not very me, but I enjoyed that a lot. Then we've got the weird Japanese stuff, the Honda CRX and the Alto. Those were both huge fun. And I could happily see myself driving either one of them. The Alto or the CRX, I'd probably go for the CRX to be honest, just because it's a little bit more nippy, quite enjoyed that. But then there was the 944. Do you know what? The 944 just kind of made me think, I do probably need a Porsche at some point. While there's still petrol in the ground, I need to go and get a Porsche. So I'm going to go with the 944, I think. Maybe. Yeah, for now. Yeah, that's 2020. There's old cars I drove in 2019, which, yeah. It's a difficult question. When you love cars and they're all different, it's like, which is your favourite child? Okay, you won't know the secret answer to that one, but what are you going to say out loud? Cornish Rider. Would I ever consider an early Audi TT when there's space? Well, there's never space for half the fleet I've got now, so although it's a consideration, Yeah, I definitely would consider an Audi TT, an early one, a really, really early one. I would like one that didn't go back for the spoiler update, so it's dangerous, but looks so much prettier. Yeah, those are like the Mini from the same year, aren't they? Both 2001. They are really attractive cars in that first year, especially if you get the baseball mitt leather stitching and that nice brown leather and the silver outside. Yeah, that's definitely a design icon that's worth having one in the collection. Yeah, I would absolutely have one of those. Later ones, not so much, but yeah, those early ones, definitely. Now, next one, Oiva. Any thoughts on X-Type Jags? I got on dirt cheap from an insurance auction. That's quite a good idea. Haven't had a chance to drive it yet. Four-wheel drive and many parts are cheap because based on a Ford Mondeo. Well, here's a funny thing. When I had a Ford Mondeo and needed injectors, it was actually cheaper to buy the X-Type injectors than the Ford injectors. Go figure, about a third of the price. But yeah, I think they're brilliant cars. They are kind of sharing underpinnings with the Mondeo, which was a fantastic car. Mark III Mondeo, great to drive, lots of room. The Jag is a bit more cramped inside, but yeah, throw in the four-wheel drive system, fantastic. They do suffer from horrific hidden rot. That's my only concern with them, is that the sills behind the cover sills, you can't see it until it's too late. By the time you can see there's rust coming through, the car is basically a goner. But that aside, I do really like them, and they are. It's a bit of a misnomer to say they're basically a Mondeo, because it's almost that the Mondeo is basically a Jag in some respects, especially the higher end Mondeos, because I know someone who worked in an accident repair place and they were taking apart, I forget what model of Mondeo it was, it was a very high end, high power one, and the suspension components were like Jaguar stamped on them, which is quite interesting. Now, I think they're brilliant cars. They're very underrated because of the Ford ties, but that's really harsh because that's a brilliant car it was sharing components with. Rob TT, do you think we're almost at the point where cars are getting too quick? If you watch Harry Garage and see Harry driving the new 911, it's silly quick. 0 to 60, 0 to 100 plus, yeah, it's just crazy. I drive a quick car, but not in that league. It's difficult to keep within the speed limit, to be frank. Yes, I found that with the Alfa Giulia. Actually, no, I found I was driving it slowly quite a lot of the time because I was so conscious of the fact it could break the speed limit so easily. You have to watch the speedo carefully. I have an old MX-5 and you can pretty much rag it and enjoy the experience and stay legal. Yeah, I totally agree with that actually. Yeah, modern cars, especially the performance cars, you've got to go to the Autobahn or a racetrack to enjoy them. They are just almost too fast. I had this conversation with the editor of Fast Car magazine about 15 years ago, and I like old classic cars because you can push them to their limits but stay within the speed limit quite happily. You can be driving like a Mark 1 MR2 and be hooning along and having a great time, or a Mini for the same fact. But you're only doing like 30 or 40 miles now, okay, a bit more in the Toyota. But yeah, I do agree with that. Yeah, if you've got an older car like an MX-5, you can be having a great time, but not be putting your license or anyone else at risk because the car isn't that fast. Modern cars, yeah, it has become insane. It's a shame because the cars have become so much more capable, and with the onboard safety devices, accident avoidance detection things, like the cameras and the sensors, they can prevent you from having a crash so much better. And not just the sensors on the outside, but also the stability controls are far more improved as well. But as the cars have become more and more capable, the roads have become more and more restrictive with average speed checks along great lengths of roads and variable speed cameras. And don't get me started on those stupid low emission part-time zones where you drive in at 9:59 and you're safe, but 10 o'clock clicks around, 10:01 you're going to get a fine because you're on the road that was a road a minute ago, and suddenly it's not a road anymore and there's a camera watching. I drove into one of those by mistake about 2 months ago, got a £65 fine for driving in at 10:15 on a road that wasn't very clearly marked as a temporary low emission, low traffic zone in London. I was not happy. I was not happy at all. It wasn't until I said to someone, "Can I park just here?" And they said, "No, mate, you'll get a fine if you do." And reversed back out and realised there's a sign that looked like it said something different, but those are designed to trap people, so there's no point appealing. Not happy at all. No, I totally agree. Older cars are far more easy to have fun in because new cars, yeah, are getting too fast. Although with things like that little Citroen electric thing, which is really slow, 50 mile an hour top speed, I imagine you can have a lot of fun in that and not go too quickly. Nagel, K-N-A-G-Y-L, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, I'm going to say Nagel. Do I think small family cars are going to be wiped out with the new small SUVs on the market? Well, that's another interesting trend, actually. Yeah, this is quite an interesting topic today. This is going quite well. I'm actually seeing the way that things like the Puma and the Kia Niro I drove the other day, they are de-SUV-ifying a little bit. So they're not quite as tall. They're coming to like a bit of a halfway house between what was an SUV and what was a bit of a crossover. So they're still too tall to actually be attractive, but they're not as massive and ugly as SUVs were before. I don't know. I can see that the SUV trend starting to tail off because so many people don't like SUVs. Yeah, I can see it. I don't think small cars will be wiped out in total, because I think that there's a continuing affection and desire for small cars like Fiestas that people prefer driving because they're a better driving experience. And then the new Puma, which I don't think is a good name for that car because it just constantly awakens memories of a fantastic sports car, and then you get in and it's a tall Fiesta thing. That one bucks the trend of terrible packaging, because SUVs have one thing in common, and that's just terrible packaging. You get into one of those and it's massive on the outside, tiny on the inside, no room in the boot, nowhere for anything to be stowed. Terrible cars mostly. The Puma is actually quite good in that it does have a fair bit more storage. I do need to drive one of those just to compare, but no, I don't think there will. I think the SUV trend is going to blow over, and we're going to go back, because a lot of people are now going, well, actually I do prefer an estate car to an SUV, or I do prefer a hatchback because it drives better. There are still some who just think they look good in them. They're wrong, I'll say that. But no, I think that, yeah, it's a growing segment, but I think it may be a niche segment that grows and then peters out again. Right. Next question, Bremner 1701. I'm enjoying the Quentin saga and progress we've made. That said though, is it time to cut your losses and say goodbye to the Hateful Eight? No, not now. I think a month or two ago it might have been the time to cut my losses and say goodbye to it and break it for parts. But now we're at the point where it starts on the key every time. The roof frame works, everything else does appear to work. It's just an MOT keeping it off the road, and the fact I've not insured it yet. So yeah, once I've got an MOT, in a week or two's time, fingers crossed, touch wood and all that, assuming they don't find anything horrific wrong with it, I'm going to put a load of V-power in it and some fuel system cleaner just to make sure it's got a fighting chance, and just drive it the long way, giving it an Italian tune-up on the way to the MOT station, because emissions are the big problem I'm really concerned about there. Then it's going to be a good working car. It's just going to need the hood fabric, which is just there next to the camera, attached to it, and then that wing painted, and we're kind of there. So yeah, I think we are. The finish is in sight with that car, and hopefully by that point, if we can string out the painting, leave it at a paint shop for long enough, because most painters I know tend to take months over things, that could work out quite well. They'll be ready to sell it in time for summer. So yeah, that was nearly given up on a couple of times, but no, we're there now. No. Gerard, I'm still quite concerned about the Alpha. Is it really fixed properly with all the rust? I have my first Alpha. I bought an Alpha 33. I love an Alpha 33. I had a Series 2 Cloverleaf, which is fantastic, but it was really unreliable. It was really unbelievable for many, but I've never had to deal with rust. In fact, my uncle has a tactile station. It's a thick layer of it from new. Well done for keeping that one solid. And the 33s were actually quite well galvanised, but by this point in time they are starting to rust. So if yours is still solid, then fantastic. That's really good. No, I think it is really good now. I went through the sill area and welded it, and then my friend, who's a far better welder than I am, he's restored some really good cars, and they've been on the road for many years. He went over those sill repairs himself, just to sort of strengthen my welds, and I've seen how he did the strut top repairs, where one of them he was able to one of them had been plated on the underside, which is kind of strange, which might look really rough. But he's left the plate where it was, gone around, re-welded the edge of it, and then plug welded where it had gone through. So that's solid metal, very double thick solid metal on the driver's side. And the other side, it basically scalped the top of the strut top and then seam welded the other good strut top identically into place. So that's a really, it's a factory strength weld basically, and thick metal. So yeah, I'm confident that it's good. And underneath it, he has wax oil. He's sealed it underneath basically. Everywhere it was bare metal, he's gone over it and rust proofed it. And I will continue to kind of repeat the rust proofing, sand it back with a wire brush from time to time, and redo it from time to time. And on top it's rust proof painted and then blue painted. So yeah, I'm confident that car is good now. That's a safe repair, and that car will now be looked after and be good for many years to come. I'm actually really annoyed though, because that car was sold to me as a car that had been professionally repaired. So I was kind of annoyed that the professional welding was worse than something I would have done. So that was not good. Oh, my coffee's getting cold, it's so chilly, eh? Robert Brink, hello. How am I coping with lockdown and Brexit? Well, I can't really talk about Brexit because any mention of that incites angry responses. I'm not from the UK, but I'm seeing large queues of trucks, so I'm slightly worried about you lot. Second, same question I've asked Hubnut, with an unlimited budget and no travel restrictions, which country would you like to visit and which car would you take, not the new ones? Well, hopefully the queues at the Dover are now going down, because they've got the testing stations in place for the lorry drivers, and the lorry drivers can get through at last, and so that's going to start flowing again. We've got a trade deal, apparently, they're going through at the moment, so fingers crossed we might be able to get stuff flowing both ways across the channel in the new year as well. That'd be good. It is going to cause me more paperwork when I'm doing work abroad next year, though. That's going to be more administration hassle. Lockdown was hard actually this year. The first lockdown was really hard. I was glad to have this channel to do stuff with. I had a lot of nice messages from people saying thank you for doing the videos, you've kind of given me something to do and kept me sane by having something to follow and watch. To be honest, that was reciprocal. Having something to do here was really good for me as well, because I couldn't go and do my regular work. No one could. In the first lockdown, it was really, really hard. So having stuff to do with the cars, I'd actually planned, when we found out it was going to happen, I brought as many of the cars to home as possible and stocked up on as much supplies as I could, so I could do things here at home. And some things still took absolutely months to arrive, like the headlining on the Volvo took like 12 weeks to arrive. That's ridiculous. But yeah, as it is now, we've now got this kind of tier system. We're in tier 4, which is the heaviest, but you're still allowed to go out if it's for work. So I can still go to where I've got car dealerships who've got cars that I can drive. We can obviously hand over safely and clean the cars for a drive and stuff like that. So yeah, I can still go and do test drives and things, and my other work is very similar. So yeah, in that respect, it's not as bad as it was for the first 3 or 4 months, but it's not been a good year though. Now, where do I want to go to? And the thing is, I want to take all of my cars to all different places. I want to take the Alfa, I want to go and drive it to Milan. That would be really cool. Take it back to the factory. I want to take the Volvo somewhere snowy. Normally, our annual holiday is basically driving across Europe. We do that every year. We get into the modern car and load up with stuff. Do Eurocamp, which is really cool, because you can just drive around there and you've got stuff waiting for you, and it's normally in a nice lakeside or mountain top location, and it's great to see all of Europe. It's fantastic. But I'd like to be doing that in an older car, really. I've driven in Africa, but I've never driven to Africa, so that'd be quite fun, because you could drive across Europe and down into, but that would take something solid. That would be a car that needs air conditioning though. When there are countries I wouldn't want to drive in, I wouldn't want to drive around Russia because the roads are terrifying. Likewise India, because the traffic is terrifying. I've driven around parts of Africa and they are very variable. Anywhere with amazing scenery, there's too much of the world to see to rule anywhere out really, just which car you want to take. If I could take a W123 around the coast of Australia, that would be fantastic, because big open roads, a big cruising car, that'd be great fun. I would like to go and do America some more. I've driven a lot in America, and I'd like to do some more of those areas. And Canada, I've never driven in Canada yet, so yeah, take the Mini to Canada, that'd be quite fun. Too many places though, too many places and too many choices. All of them, everywhere. That's the short answer. Now, next one, Scottish Car Enthusiasts TV. Davey, hello, how are you? And congratulations on winning one of the packs in the competition. What has been my most memorable test drive of 2020, or a car I enjoyed? Well, honestly, the most memorable, and it's hard not to choose anything but this in terms of memorability, is the Hustler, the wooden car. That thing was just crazy and so much fun. It rattled like you were driving a big glass shed. It was just insane, but huge fun. It drove well though. It drove really well considering it's made of timber. I'm glad I didn't crash it, but I had huge fun driving the thing. So yeah, that was good. That was really good actually. Nothing can really top that. I think next year is going to struggle to top that as well. Second place would be the 1930 or 33 Morris Minor, which had the pedals in the wrong layout. That was memorable for different reasons. Yikes. But I'm happy to drive everything here. This is not so much a question, this is more of a comment, and a very generous one. Thank you indeed. I think there's a slightly strange font on this one and I can't quite read it. Quartak. I'm really sorry if I'm getting their name wrong, but it's a Cyrillic font and I can't quite work out the letters. If any parts for Alpha, let me know. I've the same versions and considerable inventory. Oh, thank you very much indeed. Alpha Solidarity, we need more of that because they're hard to get parts from. Time to drive a Maserati. Yes, it definitely is. You're quite right. Frank Wolfius. Hello, how are you? Hope you're well. How is my workload divided between photography and the channel? Well, that's an interesting question, really, because my work is, as a photographer, is actually quite seasonal because a lot of what I do is for car magazines, and so we shoot like crazy in the summertime, sometimes like 3 shoots in a day, and get to this point in the year where we hardly shoot anything at all because the weather's bad. Obviously we're shooting classic cars or special cars. People don't want to take them out in the cold and the rain and the snow and the salt, so the cars stay indoors. But this is kind of odd, and it's very hard for people to get their heads around if they've not come across the publishing world before. It's paid on publication, so although I might be doing 15 jobs in a week or 15 days work in a week in August and July, come this time of year I'm hardly doing any, but I'm paid the same throughout the year. So it's a funny way of working. But as far as the balance between the YouTube channel and real work goes, the YouTube channel is growing because it takes far longer than it should do to put a video together. The last couple of videos I've actually started doing the interior walk around differently. Instead of doing individual shots of the items to put in afterwards, I've just done pointing the camera while I'm talking, and that saved me a good 40 minutes on the editing time, maybe even longer. So that is how I'll be doing it in the future. But I need to be doing, think of it not so much as weekly as monthly, I need to be doing 4 to 8 reviews a month in terms of car test drives, and that is between 4 and 8 days of work, so that's potentially 1/4 of the month gone on YouTube, basically. Because sometimes I can do 2 in a day. 2 is kind of my maximum in a day in terms of the time it takes me to drive a car and the battery life of the microphones and things. So 2 in a day is my lot. It's 4 days a month on reviews alone, filming, if I can hit 2 a day on all of them. So that's a week gone, because then you factor in the editing time and the research time. In fact, I should do a video on how I put these videos together, because it is quite interesting and more involved than people might imagine. I reckon it's now taking about 30 to 50% of my time goes on YouTube now, especially when I'm doing workshop stuff here at home. And this time of year, when a lot of the standard photography kind of does dry up, then yeah, maybe even 50% of my time is going on YouTube. So yeah, it's a funny thing. Come next summer, when when YouTube is still expecting as much from me, but then regular businesses are as well, that's going to be quite difficult. I'm going to need 9-day weeks to get it all in somehow. Now, fix, drive, ride, fly. You might notice a sticker there. I sent it into a post bag last month. Thank you much indeed. I think it was with the little car, which I haven't painted yet. We'll get on to doing that soon. What I want to do is get some petrol blue metallic paint so I can paint it the same colour as my actual Mercedes, even though it's the previous generation. Do I think the Merc will be ready for a post-vaccine road trip later in 2021? And where would I take it? Well, I'll be honest, no. Looking at the sills whilst I'm prodding it around underneath it, I think it's going to be taking a bit more welding than I was originally thinking. The inner wings don't look too bad, but the sills look like there's some work to be done there. So I think, bearing in mind I've got so many other projects going on as well, if I was a body shop, I could probably knock it out in a month or so. But working at my time, my speed, it's probably not going to be on the road until the end of 2021, early 2022, because there's some money to be spent on that car and a lot of hours of welding. But it is going to happen though. It still drives, it still fires. I don't know if you saw the thing on Facebook and Instagram the other day, when I did just fire it up just for the hell of it. It looked good, it sounded, it just first turn of the key, bang, it went. Opened the sunroof wouldn't shut again, I had to shut it with a, a socket. But I did grease the runners whilst it was open, got some lithium grease. So hopefully next time I push that button by mistake, it won't be such an issue. It was so stupid. I was looking at the dashboard and I saw this little weird logo on one of the switches above the radio, and I thought, I've never pushed that. What does that do? I can't figure out the little pictogram. So I pushed it and the sunroof opened, and I thought, that's why I've never pushed that. That's the sunroof. I don't know if it shuts again. And sure enough, it didn't. I don't know why it takes less effort for it to go open than it does to close, but it does. So there you go. I would love to take that back to Stuttgart, back to the factory, take it for a drive. There's some wonderful driving roads in Germany. So like the other questions, so much of Europe has got fantastic driving roads, and Britain does as well. I mean, North Coast 500. I haven't been able to do my slideshow chat with my friend Barry about our North Coast 500 trip. Planning to do that at some point. I should have done it with me in a taxi, because we could have sat at the front and the back of the taxi and used the intercom to talk safely. Because we can only meet up outside now, because we're tier 4 in Kent. W123 is not really an Evo Triangle or Nürburgring car, but it's definitely a car for a nice cruise through the countryside, maybe up a mountain somewhere. That'd be quite fun. But yeah, they should go to Germany. I like the idea of taking a car back to its factory. Last question, David Murphin. I'd be interested to know more about how special the Y Minis are. I got rather excited when I found a sub £700 one on eBay recently. There's been 406 of them left now. Would it be worth the investment to buy and repair? Short answer, yes, it would be worth buying and repairing, but long answer, depends what it needs, which is always the long answer to these things. They are special. They were very, well, not limited run. They weren't a run at all officially. They were basically the experimental cars, the pilot build that BMW Mini built when they were working out the production procedures, how they were going to build them. So if you're getting a Irish one, although it may well have gone down the production line, chances are it was more hand-built than robot-built at that point still. And you find things like the accelerator pedal, oval pedals have got like a mini logo in them, which later cars didn't. The scuttle vents have got a different pattern in them. There's no bracing in the roof of the earlier ones. Mine has no roof bracing, so the roof panel actually wobbles. So they are really quite interesting cars. It's basically the development of the Mini, the R50. And if you're looking, I don't like collecting cars for financial gain. Clearly I'm the opposite way here, but that is one car I would lay money on becoming valuable in the future. So if you can find one, say for £700, they are going for £2,000 plus if they're really nice ones now. So it's worth the investment if you can find one and make it nice for not too much money, because in cars that are worth money as an investment trade on either exclusivity or nostalgia. Cars, your first car, your parents had one, you learned to drive in it, that kind of thing. And when you combine the two, so it's a car with lots of fond memories, because everyone knows someone had a Mini basically, or lots of people do know, but then you have the exclusivity of the prototype stage build of them, then yeah, then you double them up. And look at the value of the original first year of build of 1959 Minis. Those are just insane money. But yeah, they are difficult to find. Things are hard to find for them. I have got a spare accelerator pedal for mine. And these are the original scuttles with different pattern. Because it's got this font, old 1950 style font in the pedal. And if my drive-by-wire pedal ever breaks, then I wouldn't be able to get another one. So I've kept that one. I've got some bits of car 201, mine's car 202. So the cars are virtually identical. That was a red and white car which looked the same, and the red seats are different as well. The early ones before mine, they had like a groove in the seat bases. I'm kind of sad mine hasn't got that. So yeah, they are definitely worth saving. Now finally, the post bag. I don't have a good name for this slot yet. There are a few other channels that do the post bag section. Mighty Car Mods and Sarah N tuned for 2. Hubnut for 3. But I'm struggling to think of a good name. Well, I do seem to stand here and pull them out the boot of the Rover. So you could call it something like, what's in the trunk? Shall we see what's in the trunk this week? Although having grown up watching Tony Hart on TV, we could call it the gallery. It's a fairly lightly loaded trunk this week. I've only got 2 things in. A few people did actually say they'd sent stuff in, but when I went down to the sorting office, because I have to go and collect this from the local sorting office, they did say there were a lot of delays going on at the moment, so maybe we'll get a few things extra next month that should have been in before Christmas. If you'd like to send anything in for next month, send it into Furious Driving, PO Box 477, Aylesford, ME69LE, and that will reach me here and I will open it live on air, and then I will reveal to the world what has been sent in. Right, first of all, this one is a card, a Christmas card. Hurrah! To Matt, Furious Driving, wishing you and your family a very Merry Christmas. Your YouTube has kept everyone going this year. Thank you very much indeed, do appreciate that. From Tom Daly, and hope I enjoyed the gift. Aha! Well, let's see what we got in terms of a gift. Oh, wrapping present, and it feels, I'm going to say, that's not a bottle of wine. I can't get to the sellotape, my fingers are numb. Ah, I think I can guess what this is. Fantastic. R50 Mini, red and white, matching my car. That is brilliant. This is a solid O. No, it's, I think I can guess what this is. Fantastic. R50 Mini, red and white, matching my car. That is brilliant. This is a solid O. No, it's, I think I can guess what this is. Fantastic. R50 Mini, red and white, matching my car. That is brilliant. This is a solid O. No, it's, Can't see the brand. It says China 2001 Mini Cooper. That is brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. I love that. Adding to the garage car collection. That's one product to come in actually, because I've got a few red and white minis gathering in the house now. That is very cool indeed. Thank you. This is exactly what mail time is all about. Making me smile. I hope you guys are smiling at home as well when you see that. Can you see that? That is brilliant. Now next up, now judging by the customs declaration, this one has come in from abroad. And well wrapped indeed. Wow. Now there was no note with this, but there was an email, so I believe this came from Frank. So thank you, Frank. We'll see what's in the box. This is intriguing. Whoa, lithium. The word lithium is always a good start. This is... Aha! Do you know what? I was actually looking at buying one of these before Christmas. So that is like you read my mind. That is fantastic. An angle drive, a powered angle drive. Don't have any juice in them. Yes. Do you know what I could have done with that when I was doing the lights in the back of the Volvo? Because getting down into the boot of the car, reverse direction on the back. Thank you very much indeed. That is a brilliant Christmas gift. I very, very much appreciate that. I was after Christmas cards and silly jokes, but that is absolutely fantastic. I'm unbelievably grateful for that. Thank you so much. That will definitely be getting a lot of use here in the garage. So thank you, Tom. Thank you, Frank. That is absolutely fantastic. Astonishingly generous and wonderful ideas. I do appreciate that. That is just brilliant. That is a brilliant end to a great Christmas this year after a pretty rubbish year. So I'm going to wind up now and say thank you very much indeed. It's been great talking to you all as always. If you want to talk to me live, I'm going to do that next Thursday because that's New Year's Eve. I'm guessing most people aren't going out this year, so I've got a captive audience there. So come along and say hello, 8 o'clock Thursday the 31st, rather than Friday, which is New Year's Day. So it'll be the last video of 2020. Say goodbye to this less than spectacular year. I hope your years, despite being difficult, hasn't been too terrible, and 2021, it can only get better, can't it? Let's hope. Right, take care everybody, and I'll see you again very soon. Well, thank you all once again for being channel members and Patreons. It makes a massive difference to supporting this channel. I really do appreciate it. So yes, thanks again, and I'll see you again very soon.